What's up, War Report family? I'm your host, C Dub. A-Day is right around the corner, so Mike G, B Will, and a special guest joins us tonight to discuss the latest news regarding Auburn football and spring practice, and a little bit of recruiting news as well. All that and more in the latest edition of the Midweek Report. War Eagle, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Midweek Report, courtesy of AuburnSports.com. Shout out to JG Tate and those guys for supporting us. So, guys, we want you to support them. So please be sure to visit their site. Check out all of the amazing content that they have over there. Thanks to them. Thanks to you guys for hanging out with us on this amazing Wednesday evening. Do us a favor. We've got a great conversation lined up for you guys. People need to hear it. So help us out. Be the plug, share the content, social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can share it. Use the hashtag, even add us on social media. Smash that like button to help us with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Now, for access on how to access some of this amazing film review that Ike is chopping up for us on the regular, Mike G can tell you how you can access that.
Listen, not just film review, guys. It is the green name game in the chat. So if you don't have a green name and you're wondering why, you're on the outside looking in about why you don't have a green name, become a Patreon member. Help support the work that we're doing. We're at everything, guys, man. We're at practices, press conferences. We're traveling to tournaments. We're bringing you guys as much coverage as you can stand. And you can help us continue to do that by becoming a Patreon member. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. We'll choose someone at random that interacts at a high level with our channel and give them a month free on you. So our community has been doing this. We appreciate them for that. I want to talk about our podcast here for a second. The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, is on fire. You don't want to miss it. Podcast exclusive content every single week on podcast. Apple Podcasts being the most popular of them, but we're on every single podcast platform, so you definitely don't want to miss that. Miss that content. Now, we're giving away something tonight in honor of it being the spring. Get your weight up with this Get Your Weight Up t-shirt. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the comments. You guys know the drill. We're going to pull around the 1 hour mark. So make sure you get your spelling up, because if you don't spell it right, you're not going to be entered into this thing. And make sure your browser is refreshed so that when we call on you, you're not like 30 minutes behind. And then everybody's like, he gone, and you don't get one. Don't be a casualty. Don't be a statistic. Be here at the hour mark to win that. Yeah, that's it, man. Let's get to this. Oh, wait. Look who we have here. Suddenly, as if from nowhere.
We are joined, of course, by, with it being a midweek report brought to you by AuburnSports.com, is Brian Matthews of AuburnSports.com joins us this evening. Talk a little bit of the latest and greatest regarding Auburn. B-Matt, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. How do I sound? Okay?
Sound good. Sound good.
All right.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Listen,
I'm using my little ear pods, so I don't know how good that is. So.
No, you're good. You're good to go. Listen, we're going to get into it. Put you on the spot real quick. You write a Monday Musings article that you put out pretty much the beginning of every week, and you've been pretty complimentary of Hugh Freeze as of late. Pretty much since he's been here. You talked about how he's managed to kind of connect with former Auburn football players. You talked about how he's been a pretty big hit with high school coaches as well. He's been on the job for a few months now, and I want to hear from you when you think about what he's done with the 2023 recruiting cycle, the 2024 class currently, junior day, spring practice, how he's engaged the Auburn community. If you had to assign Hugh Freeze a grade, when you're on the spot here, based on what you've observed, what kind of grade would you give him based on the work he's done so far?
I mean, I'd give them an A. I really would. I think they did a tremendous job closing out the 23 class. They did a tremendous job in the transfer portal. They brought 21 newcomers in January for spring practice. And I think a lot of those guys are going to contribute as starters or as key backups, a whole lot of them. I think he's done a tremendous job of connecting with Auburn alumni, lettermen, building good rapport with guys in the athletic departments, reaching out and getting so busy in the 24 and 25 classes. There's nothing that I can point to that said I wish he would do more of this right now. I just think he's hitting all the checking all the boxes so far, doing it much better. And I think the most important thing is he's being a one-on-one tip of the spear recruiter. He's contacting these kids daily, the top ones, and FaceTiming them or texting with them personally, and that makes a huge difference, especially with those 5-star caliber athletes.
B-Matt, you and I usually sit next to each other at these pressers, so I watch your facial expressions when Hugh Freeze says certain things. Help me out here, because there was one thing that really confused me about his approach to the spring. And, can he keep up this recruiting momentum if he continues to eat at places like Little Italy? Like, now they got some. Now you were a big Little Italy guy, and some people in the room were not. But you seemed to like it. He was like, "Oh man, that thing was sent from the gods." What's the deal with Little Italy, man? And Hugh Freeze seems to like it. He seems like he's settling into the community just fine if he's settling into restaurants like that and really just become a part of the culture at Auburn.
Well, first of all, I like all pizza, right? I can't name a place in Auburn where I don't like their pizza. I'd even eat Godfather's, if it's in front of me, right? But I just like Little Italy and their New York style. It's what I like in pizza. So props to them. But I'll say this: the only thing not really going well right now is just some of the talent that he's inherited, right? I mean, he doesn't have an RPO style quarterback. He's trying to teach that to them, and that's taking some time. The receiving room, while it's got some good players, I don't think it has any great players, at least right now. Maybe Camden Brown can develop into that. I don't know, or somebody else. But I think overall he's done a fantastic job.
Heather Dinich took a shot at the receivers in her little article, right, and saying, "Hey, you guys are going to need to be patient with this room." I mean, is it fit? Can we really fairly judge these receivers based on what's going on at quarterback right now?
I think that's sort of what we got though from the staff, right? I don't think she just made that out of thin air. I think that's the feedback she got, and I wouldn't necessarily consider it a shot, but I'm happy to see the receivers view it that way, right? Because anything to motivate those guys to work harder and do better is good for Auburn. So, I look at it as a positive, right? I think there was some truth in what she wrote. I don't have any doubt about that, but I also think, if Auburn can find a way or the players to motivate them from that, I think that's good.
Yeah. B-Matt, so we're all out there. We get these media viewing sessions, right? And we get 20 minutes of really benign drills, to be honest with you.
Right. But yeah.
We're doing our best to glean what we can from the quarterback rotations and what sets they go out there with. What are you keeping your eye on the most? And what have you been looking at that kind of has your attention outside of the normal, regular things everybody's looking at, like quarterback snaps?
Right. I love the defensive line. Going back 22 years ago when they practiced out on the old field out there, and we could go to the entire practice during 2 days in the middle of August. I used to park my butt down there on the D line and watch Terry Price and Dun go to work with those guys. So I love watching those guys work, and Auburn's really helped themselves there. Really, they've got some big guys that can move. Keldrick Falk looks like a freaking beast. I had no idea he was that big. I mean, I saw him in recruiting, right? I just had no idea.
Yeah.
When you see him out in the football field, how big and powerful he looks, and he's only going to get better. I think Ron Roberts was like, let's not pump him up too much. We don't put too high expectations on him, but he's going to be a good player for Auburn, right? So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about what
do you think he has the ability to actually at some point in the season take that starting jack position?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts day one. Now, I think Elijah McAllister is a guy that, is going to do his job, right? And know exactly what he needs to do. Very smart, big, strong, veteran guy. But I think, Keldrick's going to provide more of that punch as far as pass rush. Although I think he's more of I haven't seen him pass rush in the pass rush drill. I'd love to see if they just let us stay out there for one-on-one drills so we could watch the receivers and DBs and the O-line, D-line. That would be terrific. I'm gonna see if we can get that done, maybe. But I think he's more of a power rusher right now, right? I don't think he's a Derek Carr or Ike Leota, and I think that's one area they're going to look for in the transfer portal if one of those guys pops in there.
Jason Jones has really emerged as a leader on that defensive line as well, too. Yeah. He's been very outspoken this spring. I was taken back by his growth in leadership, so far this offseason. But, guys like Big Thanos and, it's been kind of quiet on that front with him. Have we heard much about him and what he's doing this spring?
Who was that?
Thanos. Jeffrey Mba.
Jeffrey Mba. Okay. So I thought you were talking about, but I want to be sure.
Yeah.
Well, we had a great interview with him. I think it was last week. Mm-hmm. And the feedback we've gotten has been really positive. And then when I go out there, I'm watching him a lot because he is the best looking player on the team, in my opinion. I'm just talking about from just walking around, out there. Wow. Just looks like a daggum, Sunday player to me. And you can see him taking some steps, right? And you hear from the coaches and the other players around him that he's taking some steps to becoming a really good football player, not just a great athlete. So I'm really excited to see what progress he makes. I think there's a good chance. When we're out there last week, they were sort of in their run fit defense. So they had Jason Jones and is it Justin Rogers, the other nose guard?
Yes. Yep.
Out there together, right? But I think there's going to be times, and Marcus Harris is a defensive end, but I think there's times when Marcus Harris is at D tackle that Mba is going to be your starting defensive end. So I expect him to be a big part of this defense.
One of the things I talked about was last year, run defense, we kind of took a step back in that category, and it seems like we've added size up front to kind of clog those holes. Do you see a significant improvement in run defense just based off what you've observed so far with the guys that we've got?
I agree 100%. I think this team is going to be better at run defense. I think they've taken a little step back in pass defense. It's not because they don't have good players there. It's just because you lost Derek Carr, who's one of the best players / student athletes I've covered in my 22 years.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think Rogers and Johnson and the Mozille Kite, is that correct?
Yep.
Bring a lot of punch there in the run game. And then I think they got some younger guys coming up, and EJ Sledge. I watched him a little bit. He's moving around much better, I think. He's redistributed some of his weight. So I think he's going to be able to help out there, maybe at nose or D tackle and run situations. But yes, I think that's going to be a strength. I think, Elijah McAllister, that's going to be his strength. Keldrick Falk, a 270-pound jack, that's going to be his strength right away, right? I think he's going to be a playmaker. And if you look at Marcus Harris, it looks like he has really worked hard in the offseason, just body style. It looks like he is ready to be a guy that, he already makes plays behind the line of scrimmage and forces fumbles and stuff, but I think we're going to see even more of that this year.
Would it be fair to say that the defense is light years ahead of the offense right now in terms of development and, overall picking up a new system?
I think so. Yeah, I do. And I don't think that Ron Roberts' system is easy, but I just think, they've got most of the numbers and talent they have there to be successful. They could use another, edge rusher and maybe another cornerback, but they're getting 3 into May when the freshman report.
Right.
But they've got enough guys there that they can be really, really good. And if they add a pass rusher, I think they can be a great defense.
I got a question for you, B-Man. One of the corners, I was surprised to hear Hugh Freeze say that we were thin at corner before the freshman, because there's one guy I haven't heard anything about, who is Austin Osbury.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he at in his development? Why have we heard virtually nothing about him? He's 1 year on campus, but yet his name hadn't come up. What's up with that?
I'm a little surprised because I thought he was playing as a freshman. It was going to be, maybe a starter as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's playing safety and big nickel is what I think he's playing, but I have not asked or really watched him much so far. I think part of the issue is Auburn is very talented there, right at corner. And most of their cornerbacks are cover guys, right? Man, and I'm not sure Austin was ever going to be that guy because he's just a big kid, right? I always felt like he's going to be either nickel or safety. And then the other thing is they've got, so many veteran safeties. They got like 7 or 8 safeties, I think it is, plus 3 more coming in freshmen. So it's a really crowded room, and would not be surprised to see some attrition there, to be honest with you. Yeah. But at cornerback right now, they've got Nehemiah Pritchett, DJ James, and Kyan Lee. The freshman is playing really well. That's the only 3 healthy scholarship players they got. JD Rim had surgery in the offseason. I don't know exactly what it was, but he won't be back, I think, until June. And then they got 3 more corners coming in at the end of May. And those at least 2 of those 3 guys are going to have to be in the rotation, I think.
So it seems like they pretty much designated Keontae Scott as a nickel back and not a regular boundary corner.
Yeah, I think he can play boundary, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think he is such a good nickel because he can play in the box and be physical and, make tackles in space.
Yeah.
And also cover guys really well. I think he's just the prototypical nickel, and I think it's be hard to move him unless you just absolutely have to.
Yeah, I think for this group, if Auburn can find a way to generate a pass rush, this defensive backfield is going to get a lot of turnovers this coming season, right? Yep. I mean, you've got guys with ball skills. We saw DJ James had a pick 6 at the last scrimmage. They got tons of talent in that room. And then you've got freshmen stepping up, again, what you said with Lee, who is, I don't know if a surprise contributor this spring because they've got so much talent there. But Hugh Freeze spoke highly of him. And I've been paying attention to the guys that he mentions because he's made a point of saying, we want competition, this and that. But every once in a while, he'll be like, Tate Johnson is an Auburn man, right? Or, Jarquez Hunter, I've seen enough tape on him to know he's good. And, DJ James is solid. Like the guys that he does mention. And then last week, Holden Garner had a great week, right? So I don't know. I mean, he downplayed his pro day performance a little by saying, hey, you should look good against air. But then, prior to that, said, hey, he had a great week throwing the ball. I also think I want to get your take on this with Holden because there were some questions about why the other 2 quarterbacks didn't throw at pro day, and I kind of made the point that it seemed as if Tank and John Samuel requested Holden to throw to them. And I think that maybe says something for the sophomore or true sophomore about, how accurate they feel he can be that, hey, let's get this guy out there throwing to us so we get some accurate balls to catch during pro day and we can look better. Right. Do you think that means anything that they chose him?
I do. I think you're absolutely right on that. And, you look at it, Robbie Ashford's got a sore shoulder, so that probably limits, amount of throws they want him to make in a day or a week. And then TJ Finley, he doesn't always throw the most catchable ball, right? Doesn't always have the best touch. He's more of a fastball thrower at times. I know they're working on that. I'm not trying to, put him down or anything, but I can understand completely why they would pick Holden. He throws a really nice catchable ball, got a pretty live arm, I think. And I thought just watching him at pro day, he did pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you think because the reports beginning of spring indicated that Holden was kind of behind. Is it fair to say that after a week or so, even going into this week with positive reports, that he's closing the gap and is really a player in this QB race at this point?
Well, not only did Ufrey say that he's stepped up, he was in the first rotation. We went out there Monday, so I think that says a lot too to me. I maintain, and I'm going to stick to my guns, that Auburn starting quarterback in 2023 is not on the roster yet.
Oh, man.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
I have echoed that, B. Matt. That's been my sentiment as well. Yeah.
But to me, this is the way I look at it in a lot of ways. Accuracy is the most important thing for Ufrey. He said that in one of his press conferences.
He did.
TJ and Robbie have struggled in that area. It doesn't mean they can't improve and get better at it. Holden, I don't know enough about him, but I just remember him being a pretty accurate high school quarterback, and we'll see. But none of those three guys are really RPO guys. Right. So if they find a college quarterback at whatever level who's had success, who's running RPO offense, he will come to Auburn in May or June and already be ahead of those three guys in a lot of ways, right? So that's one of the reasons why I think there's a good chance that Auburn's going to sign a portal guy, and he's going to be the guy. And I would not be totally surprised if they didn't sign 2. For instance, they signed a guy that's got 1 year of eligibility and maybe a former 5-star, finishes second in a quarterback battle somewhere at a big school and decides I want to transfer. Maybe you bring in that guy who has 2 or 3 years of eligibility left or whatever, just so you have some real competition in 2024 with Walker White coming in, Hank Brown, being a second-year player by then, and then whoever else you bring in competing with Holden too if he's still around.
Let me ask you this real quick, B. Matt. You think Auburn has a 1,000-yard receiver in this room?
Well, I think there's a better chance because of the system, right?
Okay.
But no, not necessarily. I don't think they have a number 1 receiver yet. I'm not trying to go bad on them or anything, but I just a guy that can catch that little short slant, make a guy miss and take off and score from 60, 70 yards. I just don't see a guy that does that a lot at Auburn. Maybe Javarius Johnson can do that,
Jay Fair.
Yeah. And
Jay
guy that mentioned, right? A guy that was mentioned here recently, but not a proven guy yet there. So we'll see. We'll see what some of these guys can become.
Well, Hugh Freeze has had, in 2019, he had a almost 1,400 yard receiver. Caesar and I noted that on a segment we did. At Ole Miss, he had Laquan Treadwell go for 1,100 yards. He had Evan Ingram go for just under 1,000 yards at tight end. And so kind of changing gears to tight end, how impressed have you been just with the pure size of Rivaldo Fairweather? Man, every time this guy passes it at practice, I'm like, good Lord, who is that? Sometimes I think he's a lineman, and then he starts running, and I'm like, nah, he's too quick to be a lineman. And he'll turn around, and I'll see the name on the back of the jersey. I'm like, God, that's Fairweather. Is he the name maybe on offense that people aren't talking about enough that might – because when we talk about receiving, we talk about the wideouts a lot. But Hugh Freeze has had a couple of years where the tight end was the leading receiver on his team and years that they did really well. Is Fairweather maybe a guy you think that could fit that mold?
I was about to say, I think there's a chance he could be the leading receiver this fall. I really do. And I think he is the start of what you're going to see Auburn do at tight end. I think they're going to get these big athletic guys. I mean, Hugh Freeze has a history of that. And he can really sell that in this offense and Philip Montgomery to recruits. And I think he's going to recruit that position really well. And we're going to see more and more guys like Rivaldo. But I'm excited for him. I mean, the first day we went out there, he made an amazing leaping catch, right? So he's got these great ball skills and these hands, and he can run and do all these things Auburn really hasn't had at tight end. So, I think he's worth being excited about. It could be, besides Jarquez and those running backs, could be Auburn's best playmaker on offense.
With the number of tight ends that we have and Rivaldo pretty much appearing to be the featured guy, do you think we see some attrition in the offseason at tight end?
I don't necessarily, because I think those guys, well, maybe, but I don't, just because those guys have been here a long time. They've been through so much, right? They seem to be all Auburn guys. And I think Auburn's going to find a way to use them more than just one guy out there, right? Because a guy like Luke Deal or Tyler Fromm, they've been around the block a few times. And Frazier, they can help you in a lot of different ways, not necessarily stretching the field and doing the things Rivaldo can do, but as H-backs, doing different things. I think because of Auburn's receiver room, maybe not having the depth and the talent you want, they're going to take more advantage of that tight end.
Another article you wrote this week, you wrote about Connor Lew, and Hugh Freeze has been pretty complimentary of him as of late as well, saying that he was expected to contribute, needs to put a little weight on in the offseason, but he's been impressed with what he's been doing as a true freshman. In your opinion, how are we to feel about that? Obviously, you want to hit big on your freshmen, the kids that you bring in, because it speaks to your ability to evaluate talent, but does it make you concerned that we're having to rely on a true freshman this early in the process? And does that give us concerns in terms of the health of some of the guys who probably started spring in front of them?
A little bit concerned, but I'm going to, tap my head a little bit here and say, I had Connor Lew picked, man. I knew he was going to be a good player. I felt like three-star was way underrated for him. I loved his high school tape. I love how physical and how he loves to finish blocks. So I felt like he would be a really good player here. I think with Avery Jones, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With him and then Connor Lew, I think Auburn is going to have two centers here for this year and into the future that are going to really be difference makers and something Auburn hasn't had in quite a while. I think Connor Lew is going to be in the top 8 on the offensive line. I think he's going to play. We've seen Jeremiah Wright. He's still not 100% yet, but he's getting there. I think they got a couple other guys a little banged up.
Tate.
But but he came back, which was a surprise, which says again more about him. But you got Isaiah Miller, who's going to fill a spot somewhere, I think. Gunnar Britton at right tackle, Dylan Wade at left tackle. So he may not have to start, but I think he's going to be in the mix there to be a fill-in for injury-wise, play as a backup. Get in there unless there's some major injuries up front. I also think that interior offensive line, if there's one that pops in the portal they like, is an area they may go ahead and pursue one of those guys too.
Okay. All right. I like it. I think it's noteworthy what he said about. I'm with you, B-Matt, because a lot of people were just like, we got to start a freshman where we at, and I think it just speaks to his talent. Really, that he's a good offensive lineman. Q3 said he needed to put on some weight. So he's got a little bit more time to do that. But I like that they're now. The last true freshman offensive lineman that started for Auburn was Braden Smith. He came in like 2015. So it's been a while since they've had a talent that was good enough to start at the SEC level right out of the gate. I think that speaks well to recruiting that you are now getting those kind of guys in the door because it's happened before. Reese Dismukes started as a freshman.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, we've had guys come and do it. Yeah, and on good teams. Right. Yeah. So I would like to see Hugh Freeze continue down that vein, as particularly offensive line, because it gives you, I think it gives you some leeway at quarterback. So it definitely gives you some leeway at quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
Roo.
That's a nice part.
Listen, we're going to go ahead and grab some of you guys' comments. We see you here. And if you have a question for B-Matt as it pertains to spring, any questions you may have, please be sure to drop those. We're trying to eyeball some of those and grab them as we can. So please be sure to enter your comments. The Canoe Man, appreciate you with the $2 super chat. He says, please smash the like button. Great show. We agree. Thank you, Canoe Man. Sir. And please follow Canoe Man's instructions and smash the like button. Also, Auburn Dad for Life says, what do you think about us losing about 8 more players before end of spring portal season?
I could see that. That's a lot, but you have more. Yeah, you have more attrition in the coaching.
Already lost 2.
Yeah, you got to come out of spring. Some guys are going to see they're behind. And if they've been at Auburn 2 or 3 years and they don't see a path to play a lot this year, I think they're going to look to transfer. Maybe the receiver room has a lot of players. That's an area to watch. We've had 2 linebackers already, which is probably about right there. There's a couple of defensive linemen that have been here a while and haven't played much, so that's an area to keep an eye on.
That's true.
Have you heard anything about Zeke Walker?
Not a lot. I think the D-line coach was asked about him, and he has some pretty good things to say, but he wasn't the guy that was mentioned early on in it. So I think Zeke's out there. Competing as far as I know, and trying to earn a spot here.
This fan base is funny because after some of these players leave, they're like, "Oh no, this guy I never heard of that never played a snap is leaving. How are we going to replace him?" Right? They've got plenty of guys on this team. To your point earlier about Hugh Freeze getting his guys in,
right?
That are going to transfer. I think that happens, man, when you bring in new talent. So. If you're telling me, and I think it's going to happen in the quarterback room. Listen, all 3 of these guys aren't going to be on the roster post spring.
I agree. Yeah,
I'd be shocked if all 3 of them are on the roster post spring.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And I don't think there's many guys that Auburn's lost over the last couple of years. Kobe Hudson's one is a talented receiver, I think. The defensive lineman that went to Ole Miss from Oxford, he was another kid that they would have loved. Yeah. JJ. But other than that, I can't think of many that Auburn's lost that were really difference makers that they really miss right now.
James
Bo Nix, yeah, of course. Yeah,
right.
Pretty good.
Plead the fifth. We plead the fifth, Mike. Just keep going.
He's pretty good over there.
James Burnett says, fellas, could Falk and McAllister be on the field at the same time.
I asked this question about 12 personnel and, what they're going to run this. They're still trying to figure out a lot on offense right now.
No, this is defense. This is defense. These are two guys at the jack position.
I don't know why I had Fairweather on. I saw F and I had Fairweather on the brain. Yeah, I don't know the answer to this question.
I don't know either, to be honest with you. I haven't asked the coordinator. I don't know if that's part of their system.
Mm-hmm.
The last group, they would use both their edges, as they call them, at the same time a lot.
But those guys were really good off the edge. Like, they were good pass rushers.
Yeah,
I would probably say no if I had to just take a wild guess. It'll be an interesting question for you guys to ask Ron Roberts for sure. If you don't have another question for him, but I think Ron Roberts is doing something a little different, and these are different type of players. So it's hard to say at this point.
8A is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see. I know we're going to see base sets, right? But I'll be interested to see the combination of players they put out there on 8A.
I just want to see guys compete for sure.
CT in North Alabama says, can the War Report please address the Wes Flanagan rumors to Ole Miss? Also rumored of Philon may follow Wes and Alan Flanagan may play at Ole Miss. The internet rumors, hopefully bogus. I have not heard this. I don't know if any of you guys have heard any of this.
I have not. It's my first
I don't know how it would benefit Alan Flanagan to go to probably one of the worst teams in the SEC, even if his dad is going there. When he could most likely stay here and he at least has a role, right? I don't care who they bring in. If he decided to exercise a 6 year, I think he has a 6 year, right, B-Matt?
Yeah, he has the ability to.
Yeah, he has another year.
Yeah, COVID year.
Yeah, so he's got a COVID year. He can exercise. I don't know how this would make sense for him, for Alan Flanagan. Now, I've heard Wes Flanagan wants to be a head coach, and there were some rumors about him just wanting to coach through Alan's career. And, now that may be at an end, he's looking at being a head coach somewhere. B-Matt, what do you think? If Wes Flanagan leaves, does that hurt Auburn in recruiting?
I mean, he is a good recruiter. But I think Bruce would go out and get another really talented guy to replace him, right? He's done a great job with the staff. I would not be surprised if Wes moves on at some point, right? We'll see. I can see where people say it doesn't make sense, but you never know what's going on. And I don't have any real info on that, but I would not be shocked if something like that occurred.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. James Barnett says, I'm sorry. I think QB1 is already on the roster. Also, who could we possibly get that has played against SEC defenses since transfers from the SEC would have to sit out? Isn't that a factor?
Yeah.
It is a factor, but I mean, some of the guys they haven't necessarily played at even this level. There's a lot of group of 5 quarterbacks out there that could see an opportunity to come to Auburn and play in the SEC, make a bunch of money through NIL. And have a chance, to really upgrade Auburn's talent there. Grayson McCall was the guy that Auburn would love to get if he could transfer his academics over from Coastal Carolina. That didn't work out, but there are other quarterbacks like him out there. That would be a possibility. So I don't think, playing in the SEC would be a limiting factor to any quarterback Auburn pursues. I think it's a guy who's had success, has a high completion rate, doesn't throw a bunch of interceptions, and has run an RPO style offense. That would be what they're looking for.
So Auburn was unable to make organic gardening a whole measure for Grayson McCall. We were able to make that happen. That's too bad.
Not in time, I guess.
Yeah. I will say one thing to this. Hugh Freeze has worked with an incumbent at every stop in year 1. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
not at Ole Miss though.
Who do he didn't have? What was the guy's name?
Bo Wallace transferred in.
Okay, all right.
That was his first year.
Fair enough.
That was his first year.
The other thing, one last thing I'll say about the quarterbacks is Auburn is going to be a destination now for quarterbacks with Hugh Freeze in this offense. I know Auburn people aren't used to that with Gus Malzahn and Brian Harsin, right? That was not the case at all.
Yeah,
that's going to change, and we're going to start seeing that soon. I think my prediction is we'll see it in May. We'll see how that goes.
Okay. Well, I mean, with the portal, though, B-Matt, is it going to be more of a system for developing young freshmen? Or, I mean, I don't know, man. Like when you're bringing in guys who have limited time to play to compete with guys who have no experience at the college level but are super talented, I mean, what does that do to you in recruiting when you're trying to go out and get these young quarterbacks, when they essentially got an experience handicap against these JUCO guys or guys who are coming in from other programs constantly, at some point you got to recruit. If you're going to do that, I feel like you have to hit a home run with that guy that you bring in. He's got to be clearly better than the guys that you have on your roster.
Oh yeah, definitely. And they're going to look for a guy to come and start right away and be an impact player in this offense. We'll see. I think that's going to happen, but there's, they had 2 or 3 guys they went after earlier in the portal back in December, January, and didn't work out with those 3 guys or more than 3 guys really for various reasons. One guy had a great relationship with another school. Grayson McCall couldn't get his grades. Another guy,
Leary, right? Leary went to Kentucky. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy at a Group of 5 school. Auburn really wanted to get in the portal, but he never did. So there's just different things that occurred that kept Auburn from getting one. But I think our prediction is they're going to overcome some hurdles this time around.
Okay. I'm gonna take your word for it, B.
Corey Dub says Grayson McCall and his mullet would look beautiful in orange and blue there. Just
no mullet.
That would have been a perfect addition. I don't think it's going to work out now, but that would have been a perfect addition.
As long as he shaved the mullet. I'm sure that's the source of his powers, but whatever. I don't like it.
Yeah. Let him live. Let him live. Ike says, thanks, Brian. Maybe Hansher, but thanks, Brian, for gifting memberships. Again, we appreciate you. Thanks for that. Listen, guys, you are watching the Midweek Report courtesy of auburnsports.com. Do us a favor and share this content. We're having a great discussion. Share it on social media. That is Facebook and Twitter. Use the hashtag and @ us. Smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Did you have something, B-Matt?
Yeah, somebody asked about what I think he's going to do A-Day, which I think is an interesting question. He answered that at his first press conference this spring. He said he would like to give the defense a 24-0 lead, right, and see if the offense would come back and win the game, which I think is an exciting way to do it, right? And then I think we'll get to see 1s versus 1s, 2 versus 2s, and 3 versus 3 in that type of format, which will be really fun. So I've never heard of that before. I'm sure he's done it before, but I think that's a great format. I've sat through a lot of really boring A-days, and this one sounds like it might be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. 1s versus 1s. I want to see it. I don't want to see this whole 1s versus 3s thing, man.
1s versus walk-ons.
Yeah, right. Yeah. 1s versus the coaches. I want to see some competition out there on A-Day with these guys battling it out. It sounds like the defense is kind of winning the spring right now based on what Hugh Freeze has said in press conferences. So I expect the defense to win A-Day. I definitely expect them to win A-Day. I think if they're getting shredded by this offense that's not even fully in yet, that's probably a bad sign for the fall. Based on this year's circumstances. Sure. So
I sort of agree, but then when you get those second and third teamers in there, and you got a guy like Damari Austin or
fair,
Brian Batty, they can destroy a defense by themselves at times, especially when it's maybe not starting units. So we'll see.
All right.
It'll make it fun and interesting.
Well, B-Matt, we're going to talk a little bit of recruiting. We got a few comments that we're going to grab, but we're going to talk about some recruiting after the break. Let's pay some bills and acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial future, let Athletic Architects help you to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, War Eagle Oil. War Eagle Oil is your #1 place for all of your motor oil and related products. For more information, visit WarEagleOil.com.
Hey, become a patron member, join our community, help grow our community. We've got lots of great content for you guys. Some of it will be behind our paywall. Join the Green Name Gang in the chat. We do lots of exclusive things for members. And this coming fall, when it comes to doing things live on campus from the games. We're going to do some special things for those of you who have signed up as patron members. So get in on the action, become a patron member. We've already had this happen since I mentioned it. Gift some memberships, man. Shout out to Brian to gifting a few memberships to somebody in the community. Continue to do this. Help us grow our community. After the month is up, it's up to you to renew. We hope you make that decision to renew. Check us out on podcast, all the podcast platforms, the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. Guys, we've climbed in to the top 190 in terms of football podcasts in America. Which is a great, you guys are continuing to support. So we want to continue to climb those charts. Help us do that. We're doing podcast exclusive content. So Amen Corner with our brothers from Georgia and other schools, Mike Mack and Memes, and then other stuff that we're doing on our morning drop. And these lives will be available to you guys on audio. So go check us out. Subscribe, download, support us on podcasts. We are giving away a t-shirt. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. Make sure you spell that right. We're going to draw here in just a little bit. So you don't want to miss this. You have to be present to win. So when we call your name, you got to be here because the chat will be sure to tell us immediately if you are not. And then we will withdraw to find our winner for the night. So this is something that we do every single live cast, giving something away to thank you guys for tuning in live every Wednesday and Sunday. So please continue to do that. But be here at the hour mark when we draw for this T-shirt.
Indeed. Let's get back to it, guys. There's been an Imani sighting. Imani the Optimist. Smooth says, back? I don't care who's the quarterback. Auburn's winning the national championship. Auburn will have the top defense in the SEC. I believe.
Okay, so
all caps. He typed it with his chest.
This is not a complete sunshine pump on the defense. If they can generate a pass rush, I think that this can be a top 3 defense in the conference this year. I think they have a shot. I think the secondary is that good, and it's all going to come back down to whether Auburn is leaving their corners on an island constantly because they can't, generate pressure on the quarterback. So if some of what we're seeing at D-line is actually happening and they are as good as we think they can be and linebacker improves, they got nowhere to go but up at linebacker. If you ask me, like linebacker play was bad last year, even with Owen there. I think it's possible. I think it's possible for them to be a top 3 defense in the SEC.
B-Matt, Ron Roberts actually talked about linebackers. You guys asked him about it. He mentioned a few guys, the transfer from Ole Miss. He mentioned him, but he also mentioned Wesley Steiner. I thought that was an interesting name that he threw out there. What have you been hearing about Wesley Steiner?
It sounds like he's made a move and he's become more of a leader. We've always known that Wesley's a really smart guy.
Yeah.
And a really hard worker. And I didn't view him as much of a playmaker on the field. But, sometimes guys that are really smart, it takes them a little while because they think too much and just don't react sometimes. So you wonder, maybe he's turned the corner there. I don't know. We go out there, we don't see that. But if he's running with the first team in this group, that's a guy I want to, when I go to A-Day, I'm going to watch him early on. I want to see what he's doing. I want to see what he looks like. Because, we know he's a big dude. He can run pretty well. He's got a lot of things he won in the linebacker. Just up to now, I haven't seen him be a big playmaker. And if he can be that, I'd be excited for him.
Yeah. And also Austin Keys, the guy who I mentioned from Ole Miss, he was mentioned as well. Riley, Woodyard, bringing up the second team. So it seems like if Steiner has turned the corner, if Austin Keys is as good as expected, then I like what this linebacker room could potentially be. This is a position group that I will be watching very closely on A-Day to see if they've made some strides for sure.
Yeah, they need to protect the second level. They need to learn how to protect the second level. It was atrocious at times last year.
To me, that's the key with Auburn becoming a top defense, Mike. I think all eyes will be on that position group as well to see if they're taking a step forward.
B-Man, one last point on this.
Oh, I was going to say I watched Woodyard a couple of days ago when we went to practice, and I was really impressed how well he moves for a guy that's 240 pounds or whatever he is. So I think in him and Austin Keys, they've got 2 real thumpers that can play Mike and be those guys in the middle that Auburn hasn't had maybe in a little while. They had some smaller guys who would throw their bodies in there, but it's been a minute since they had a big 230, 240 pounder.
Yeah.
Corey Weber is asking, does B-Matt has a little bourbon in his glass? If not, he's missing out.
I'm afraid I'm not a big brown water drinker. I do drink bourbon at times, but I'm more of a beer, wine and margarita guy. Sorry.
Yep.
It's okay.
Don't judge. Don't. I felt the judgment coming right after you said.
We don't need you sloshed on the show. We appreciate that.
Yeah, gotta watch out that little Italy pizza or something.
That's right. Cold beer. Absolutely.
Viparium says, guys, thanks so much for the War Report Cup. I received it yesterday. I really appreciate it. You are welcome. Thanks for supporting for sure. B-Matt, start recruiting, man. Talk a little recruiting here. Corey Weber commented early in the show, I've held it for this moment. It was rumored that Cam Coleman was back on campus. This is a kid from up the street, the big size wide receiver. I think he's a 3-star on Rivals for now.
He's gonna be a 5. He's gonna be a high 4 or 5, definitely. Absolutely. Okay. I think he's 5 on the other 2 sites. So yeah.
Yeah. So I assume his star is gonna jump. But well, thoughts about this?
He was back, and there's another wide receiver or 2 that were here today too that we'll be able to talk about in the future. But he is a special one, and Auburn's had so much trouble recruiting at Central Phoenix City, and I think Hugh Freeze has put in some work there and the staff, and I think they're going to turn the corner. I think they're going to have success there, and getting guys like Cam Coleman to keep coming back, and then probably get him in for official visit sometime late May, early June. I kind of like Auburn's chances there.
Florida State has put a full court press on Cam Coleman.
Yeah.
I mean, they're shooting dancing videos and, they're showing him what his report card could look like. I mean, they're doing everything they can to convince him to be a Seminole here. So they've got some work, to your point. They've got some work to do since I've been home. I've been spending a lot of time at Central Phoenix City, and around that program. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of ground to make up for Auburn at what is one of the most fertile high schools in the state. Now, they've lost some great talent over the years to other schools, to non-SEC schools as well, too.
I know. Yeah. Clemson. Yeah, it's killed Auburn in some ways.
Yeah.
How do you make a read of Marcus Davis, the new wide receivers coach, former Auburn player, in terms of how he's connecting with some of these big name wide receivers once they've been getting on campus?
I don't have necessarily a lot of one-on-one feedback to that yet, but I'll say this about Marcus Davis. When he was hired, I talked to some people, and the thing that stood out to me and to them was how hard he works, how invested he is in his wide receiver room, and how invested he is in recruiting. And to me, when you're a guy like Marcus, who is very personable and young, those guys usually have an opportunity to be good recruiters, and you're a guy that works really hard and does your homework. He's going to have a lot of success. So I'm expecting him to be an all-star. Zach Etheridge and Cadillac Williams are both all-stars, super recruiters. They got it done even with head coaches that didn't help them. I can't believe I can't imagine what they're going to do with Hugh Freeze here. But I think Marcus Davis is going to step up and be a really good recruiter for Auburn. In fact, I like all these assistant coaches. I really think Hugh Freeze brought in some really talented guys. Some of them we didn't know much about, but as I've got to know some of them and see their personalities, I think recruiting. I have a prediction. I haven't written this yet, but I'm going to. But I think people are going to be surprised about how good Auburn's 2024 class turns out. I don't know specifically this guy's going to commit. This guy is. I'm not saying that, but I just think overall, people are going to be surprised nationally, and even Auburn people who are used to, having so-so type classes, compared to the rest of the SEC, right? For so long now.
Top 10?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I was going to say maybe even 6 or 7, somewhere in that area. I just have a feeling.
You get me hyped up, man. Quit playing now.
Okay, we're talking history.
Playing. It's been a while. It's been a while since we had 6, and not a Gus 6, 7 where a third of the class doesn't see the field. Like a real 6 or 7 class where we're looking at an SEC championship and saying we got that guy in that class, that guy in that class. Come on now.
Been a while.
Come on now.
I think we had 1 or 2 back in the day. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen enough at Auburn.
Hugh Freeze's first class at Ole Miss was ranked 48th. His very next class was 8th in the country. So there's precedent for him.
That was a special one. And that was a special class too. B Matt, when you say the
first class was 23, right? So this is second class, sort of, kind of.
That's true. That's true. When you say the iron is hot to strike to recruiting, because when you look at what Alabama and Georgia is doing, they're at a place now where they're recruiting nationally. They're not really recruiting regionally. And so you have a lot of talent between the two states that you can actually take advantage of. Whereas in the past, your schools like your LSUs, your Tennessees, your Clemsons would raid or come in and raid those schools away from Auburn. I think the iron is hot for this coaching staff to strike and get those guys away from those schools. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're right. Now, Auburn does have a bunch of kids from Michigan down, including a couple 4-stars today. But I think the biggest thing that's hurt Auburn from a talent perspective in recruiting is in-state. 10 years ago, no top prospect left the state of Alabama that Auburn and Alabama really wanted, truly. I mean, it was once every 3 or 4 years, maybe. Now it's become very regular for that to happen. Georgia, LSU, Clemson coming to state all the time and take the best players away from Auburn, and sometimes even Alabama, but mostly Auburn. And that's killed Auburn's program. Central Phoenix City is one of those places. There's other schools in East Alabama where Auburn's missed out on, but just all over the state, Mobile, Birmingham. So that's an area that Auburn has to improve first, and I think they will. I think it starts with you Freeze getting out there and getting to know the coaches in the state, right? And just putting more emphasis on some of these guys, which, the previous guy did not necessarily.
Auburn Dad for Life says, we need Ryan Williams. He says, I'm so tired of losing former Auburn players, kids to Bama. Thoughts on that, B-Matt?
He is spot on. Ryan Williams, when we spoke to him, I guess it was last week, he sort of admitted to us the story that we heard about his first visit to Auburn, where he showed up for a game and the staff basically ignored him for the most part. They ignored the best player in the 25 class when he came to visit for a game, who was the son of a former Auburn player. It's just,
did they not know who he was?
I don't know, but I think a couple of weeks. I don't know.
I've heard this story before, by the way.
He committed to Alabama, right? You Freeze and his staff have done a great job getting back involved in that. I think he's back to really loving Auburn, and I think Auburn has really, they're in this. I would not be surprised if he flips. I'm not promising anything, but I think Auburn's got a real chance with him now.
Yeah.
What would that mean to see? Because we got Woodyard because of how Bama handled his recruitment, right?
Right. He got injured and they kind of stopped, right.
But
it was good he's going to be a good player. Right?
But to flip a recruit straight up, like Bama wants him just as bad as we want him. That would send a huge message this year if Auburn's able to flip a guy. And he's not the only person that Auburn's trying to flip as well. Auburn Dad here is mentioning he mentioned Riddick, DeMarcus Riddick, the kid, I think Clanton, Alabama, in that area. He's committed to Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. He's a linebacker, big-time linebacker recruit that Auburn's been putting a lot of the full court press on to get him to flip. This is another school that if they've wanted the kid, they were able to get him, and we had no shot. How big of a message would that send? Again, we sent a huge message when we were able to get Walker White to commit a few weeks ago. But when you start winning battles against your rival, that has to be a sign of the times are changing.
Yes, and I think Auburn needs to do something like that, right? They need to start beating Nick Saban. I think at the end of the 23 class, they flipped Calvert Falk from FSU and Kyan Lee from Ohio State, the two top rated players in this class. Well, two of the top three. Cobb is I think, two. But two of those players are here, and they're already pushing for starting / playing a lot, right? Those are the type of talented players Auburn needs to keep getting at all the positions and build depth. And they've got to beat Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, LSU for those type players. They got to start winning more of those battles.
Yeah, get the bags out. Listen, on to victory. On to victory and straight from the bank account. It will be that simple for some of these kids. Now, if you're good, you expect to play. So if everybody's offering playing time and potential, it's going to come down to who's dropping the biggest bag. And
or some kids may really like the atmosphere in the campus. Like that does factor in to some extent. Your head coach or your position coach. Like I know it's a factor, but yeah, Mike, you're right. The bigger
drop
the
the
bag,
bags, man.
Yeah.
Just drop the bags.
It's definitely the biggest factor now. Still, location to home is still a big factor. People don't think about it, but it still is a big factor. Relationships with the coaches are a big factor. That's where Hugh Freeze makes such a big difference. And a lot of other things. I think, having the Waltz Football Performance Center helps out too. It's better than what Auburn had. Certainly, it puts them up par above everybody else.
Relationships matter, certainly.
Yeah.
You know who I have great relationships with? People who give me $20,000 a month.
Oh, I thought that was going to be the road shop. I thought that was going to be the road shop. I thought we would transition. That would have been a good one. Okay, I'm with it, though. I'm with it. Yeah, you're right. Give me money.
I was waiting.
$20,000, man. Come on. Like, just stop dropping bags. We're talking about a coach who got in trouble for some recruiting violations back in the day.
Yep.
Violate away now. Like, that stuff is legal to do. Just work within the rules. And
put it in a bag and write NIL on it, and everything's good. Right?
Straight up.
Instead of money signs, it just says NIL. Don't say nothing because you can't break any rules. Just go like this and get these kids to come. I mean, your system will speak for itself. It will. If guys see potential in the guys that are here and development happening, and I think anytime, B-Matt, somebody steps into that $90 million performance center for football, it is, you've got the facilities. Auburn has done a lot. You've got a stadium. They've got I think now it's the biggest outdoor video board in the country, in Jordan-Hare Stadium, if not the biggest, one of the biggest. You've got an impressive stadium. You've got a great campus. You've got Little Italy's apparently, and you've got all these things, man, that you can sell. Yeah. Just drop the bag and then break the tie. That's it. Yeah. I think if you can get your bag and then play someplace you want to play with the coach that you feel like can get it. Now, Hugh Freeze did express some apprehension about what NIL is doing to kids, about creating entitlement before things have been earned.
Yeah.
Every coach is, right?
Yeah.
Every
He's been
coach
open
is.
out.
The other thing I would say Auburn has right now that maybe some of these bigger schools don't is a lot of playing time, right? Because Auburn's not as talented as Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Clemson right now. So those high-profile guys know that they come to Auburn and play right away and make a big impact. So they're going to sell that as much as possible along with that NIL. And I think On to Victory has really worked hard to secure funds and put Auburn in a place where they can compete with those top schools too. I think they've done a great job there.
Keep it going.
All right. Canoe Man says Weezy is crushing it tonight. Warden Rapport. Appreciate you being with us, man, and dropping super chats. Appreciate you, Canoe Man. Elite post here. The Clinton kid has to be tired of peaches. Don't go to UGA. Well done. Well done,
man.
Not gonna outdevelop Kirby and Nick.
That's that's the other part. Now, if Hugh Freeze can turn even the recruits that he inherited, the players that he inherited, into NFL draft picks, then you really start to see it going. We get some wide receivers in the league here in the next 2-3 years. Man, it gets even easier. He's done.
I mean, he already got the work ethic.
Yeah, I believe. I think development is important, but I also think this is a developmental lie. If I was Alabama and Georgia, I'd be selling the heck out of my development because I put all these guys in the NFL.
Right.
But the reason those schools are doing that is because they're signing all the 5-stars, and those guys become NFL players. Right. A lot of those guys could go to any other school in the country, just about, not everyone, but a lot of them, and still have that same success. But Alabama and Georgia and those schools know that the secret to winning championships is having more better players than your opponent, and they've done a great job doing that.
Right.
My World of Sports says Nick Marsh, Cam Coleman, Mario Carver, Perry Thompson. I mean, these are all names that have at some point visited Auburn. Mike Matthews, Micah Hudson, Terrence Moore, Chance Robinson. Boy, if we could just get 3 of those guys. We got a shot with some of these guys, man. We really do. So it's going to be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
at some point, we're going to run out of you can get playing time here because we're going to have too many guys, top tier guys we're pitching. But you expect some of the other programs to get some of them. But from what we did on signing day, early and regular signing day, I'm with B-Matt. I am with how much talent they have coming through here for spring. Like we haven't seen this type of circulation of top tier players. I can't remember the last time we saw players leaving like, oh no, I'm coming back. And then players come back within a week. Like we haven't seen that in so long. And I know there's no guarantees. You know, the beat writers, you guys go and talk to them, and you ask them how they feel and what the coaches told them. And it's usually kind of some tagline stuff. Oh, it was fun, it was good getting to know the coaches. But it seems like, and correct me if I'm off base here, B Matt, there is legit interest that they're expressing. It's not just something that they're saying. They're saying it, they're coming back, and they're showing it. And I can't help but think that leads to some major recruitment landings here soon.
No, I think you're right. And I think the other thing we haven't talked about is Auburn. It just sells itself. It sold me back in 1985, when I was a little kid going to, 17 years old going to college, and I chose Auburn, right? I just stepped on campus and knew it was going to be my home, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people still get that feeling when they come to Auburn. I think it's that kind of a special place. I'm not saying other places can't be that for other people too, but I think Auburn has that too. Now I lost my train of thought, but I'm excited for recruiting. I don't know a lot of specifics about players because I don't necessarily cover it. I cover the team more. We got Caleb doing our recruiting for us. He does a great job, but and I try to assist as much as I can. But I feel great about Auburn's chances. They got 4 commitments now, and I think over the next 4 months, it's going to be just wild recruiting. Right? 8 days is going to be big. They have a ton of prospects here, and they're having more in today and more Friday. But those official visits at the end of May and June, and then as guys make more decisions in July, leading up to August 1st to start practice, I would not be surprised if Auburn is at or approaching 20 commitments. So that's 15 or 16 more potentially over the next 3 or 4 months.
That's a lot.
B Matt, pub your stuff, man. How can people find you and your content?
Yeah.
How can they get in touch with you, sir?
I appreciate that. And you check us out, auburnsports.com. Follow me on Twitter at bmattau. I've written a story for tomorrow morning on Damari Austin. Very exciting young player we got to interview today. Did a great job. If you'll remember, he was the guy in the 22 class that helped hold that together. I think I get that right.
Yeah.
And then now he's gone through a coaching change, and he could not be more excited to be at Auburn and be competing for that starting job and to have a much bigger role in this team than he did as a true freshman last year.
And if people want to see some pretty interesting, cool practice videos, how could they see that? I think you have something to do with that, sir.
Yeah. I usually take the video when we're out there. We have about 4 or 5 minutes maybe that we can record.
Yeah.
And those are up at auburnsports.com also. Just click on our football tab and all that stuff will pop up. But every Monday we can video. So I think I've had 4 separate videos. It's not the greatest thing in the world. They're not doing one-on-ones or competing or 11-on-11s, but we get what we can.
B Matt, appreciate you taking time out of your Wednesday to hang with us and talk some ball. We appreciate you, my guy. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great week, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I love the show.
See you,
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Guys, it's time to draw. You know what we're doing. We're giving away a T-shirt courtesy of War Eagle Oil.
Yeah.
Hashtag get your weight up in the comments here. I can't hear, so I'm delaying and oh wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Wait.
Oh, he is here. Oh, I gotta roll it. Oh, he's gonna jump through the screen and hex me. Roll it right now. Monroe. Are you here, brother? If you are not here, then you know the deal. We got to draw again, but be here, and this won't be a problem. This won't be a problem for you. So I'm trying to see if he commented recently. He has not commented in the last 5 minutes. So there's a possibility that he is not here. And they already saying he going. So be here, man. Interesting stuff from B-Matt today, Caesar.
Yeah,
really interesting stuff from B-Matt, man. I like his optimism about the defense. I'm super optimistic about the defense, and I'm on board with anybody else who is also optimistic about the defense. Not calling any shutouts this year, but I think they have a chance to do some special things defensively.
And he gave his comments about the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't sure if our QB is on campus. I know that's been a debate. Is our starting QB on campus or not? He believes that our QB is not, but he has a lot of faith in Hugh Freeze to go into the portal and find someone. I think our faith has been in him to develop who we have here, because there's just no guarantees as to who jumps into the portal in this second opening. So that part, I have a lot of confidence in what Hugh Freeze and that staff can do, but it's just it's another side of it. Is the guy going to jump into the portal? There was another guy who Matt mentioned first portal, who the staff was looking at. He just never jumped into the portal. So that's what you're working with if you got to go to the portal to get a guy or your starting quarterback. That part worries me, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So
definitely.
Ike Jones, you here? Thoughts of what was some of the biggest takeaways you took from Matt? Any comments? Anything that stood out?
The biggest thing, I mean, to me was, I know that Coach Hugh Freeze is a dynamic recruiter. If he thinks that we're going to jump up into the top 6 or 7, that's huge. That means that we're talking about a tremendous talent overhaul coming to Auburn in the next 12 months. But it's also going to be super interesting what that does to your roster, right? Like, guys aren't going to be patient for very long. So it's going to be super interesting to see how the fall shapes up. Listen, they've started having those meetings with guys and letting them know where they are as far as where they're falling out. And, I don't want to use the word depth chart, because Coach Freeze was very clear that he's not doing depth charts right now, but he is definitely letting those position groups have conversations with the people in their rooms, and they're finding out kind of the things that they need to work on. And you'll probably start to see some names deciding, hey, is this too far down the what word do we want to use besides depth chart? I'm too far down the ladder for my liking right now. So let me go figure out whether or not there's someplace else that I can go put a helmet on.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know about Monroe here, guys.
I have not seen him.
I wanted it for him, but it might be time to redraw.
Do it.
6 more people in there.
Giving him enough time.
Pull me up. Let's get this going. Oh, so sad. Sad when this happens. He gone. Oh, Andrew Ackerman.
Are you here, Andrew? Let us know if you're here.
All right, let's see here.
What's so interesting too, guys, is that Hugh Freeze has been very vocal about the need to recruit when mentioned how the progress is going at certain positions. So best believe that is the message that he's sending to.
He's definitely sending smoke signals out.
Yeah, for sure.
He's sending smoke signals out like, hey, this. I mean, it's almost Deion Sanders-esque.
Andrew, our guy, Andrew, coming through.
Andrew, you are here. Congrats, my guy. Here's what we need you to do. We need you to email us business@thewar Rapport. Business@thewar Rapport. We need your physical address, shirt size. If we don't get your shirt size, what are we sending them, IG?
Medium. It won't fit ever.
And he had to sing it.
Yeah. And if you lose weight, it's still not going to fit, right? A medium shrinks and grows inconveniently to your body. If you've never seen one, it will not fit. It's going to be the worst piece of clothing you own. You don't want it.
Okay.
You don't want it.
So what we're saying is send us your shirt size. That's all we're saying there.
Right. And go to the Rogue Shop because, 15%.
I was waiting for it too. Guys, any other comments before we get out of here? Anything y'all have on the topic today?
We're all the way through spring at this point, right? Like, it's going to be April here in like 2 days, and they seem to be making strides on defense. There's momentum building and recruiting. It's all going to come down to on the field success for Hugh Freeze at this point.
Yeah.
Figure out what's going on at quarterback. Look competent on offense. Look like you're making a step forward on offense. It's going to be hard. They'll be hard pressed to do worse than they did last year offensively, given how the season started, how it continued. I mean, they found more at the end of the season in the run game than anything they did throughout, right before Brian Harsin got, the left foot of fellowship. So it's going to be important for them to continue this momentum. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Hugh Freeze's brand of motivation rubs off on these guys. And if they take to that, and if they're embracing that message and going out on Saturdays, man, and using that to win and to find that extra thing in the fourth quarter. Because what did we see last year? In the fourth quarter, when a game was tight, Auburn didn't have that thing to get them over the hump.
Not until Caddy took over.
Right. Well, even then, in his first game, right, against Mississippi
but still,
State,
they had to come back to even make that game interesting. The fight that they showed to even take a lead in that game was a drastic difference from
but finish
half before that.
But this year, finish.
Yeah.
Right. Finish it all the way through to the end and make the extra play that you need to win to either keep it out of overtime or win it in overtime. That feeling that people get in the pit of their stomach, like when the Iron Bowl went to overtime last year, you were like,
we're going to win.
Lose.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with to your point in that Mississippi State game. As soon as it went to OT, I was like,
it's over. Right. They're not going to win. And feeling like you have a guy who can make a play, go get a jump ball in the end zone, playmakers need to emerge in this offense. So that Henner Dinich's of the world have egg on their face come fall. Remember when you was talking all that smack on Twitter, Heather? Well, what you got? How you like me now? I think that needs to be the attitude here for these guys, coming in. So it'll be interesting to see again how he motivates. I saw an interesting video of Hugh Freeze giving a speech to the team recently. You can go on Auburn Football's Twitter and check that out. But they posted it, and people have said that he is an excellent motivator. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that manifests in terms of wins and production on the field here in the fall.
Indeed. Good show, gentlemen. Great convo. Ike, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, man.
Hanging out with us just for a little bit. What you got cooked up, man? What you got cooked up in the off season?
Man, I'm still out here with the reviews, man. I'm still out here with the reviews, trying to get a lot of stuff going for the film. Once we get past A-Day, I'll probably dive into this a lot more just because we'll see this stuff in action with the actual coaches and stuff like that. So you guys need to be ready. A-Day is next weekend. Just be prepared to be a member and see a lot of stuff flying from over here. Plus, we got a lot of basketball stuff coming up with the portal that's going crazy right now. So I will be heavy into the film reviews coming up for you guys. So get your membership status right. Gift a membership. Thank you to those of you who did that today. Cool Breeze and Brian, I saw you guys in the live chat earlier. Thank you so much for gifting memberships. Don't forget to hit us up where we are doing our audio work. Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport. You got audio only content that's dropping over there. And if you didn't get a chance to win today, have no fear. TheWarReport.com is here. You can head over there and get your own merch, get your weight up there in our store. Articles there for you guys to read. Listen, man, just go stop by the website, browse a few pages, stuff like that. That stuff helps us too. You just participating in the things that we put out there is always helps. So we appreciate those of you who continue to do that.
Again, thanks guys for hanging out with us on this Wednesday. If you enjoyed this show, share it with a friend. Share it with another member of the Auburn family. Use the hashtag @us, especially if it's on Facebook or Twitter. Smash the like button. Guys, get the likes up. Help us with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to our channel. I did mention Facebook and Twitter, but that's not the only places where we reside. You can also find us on Instagram @The War Rapport. We can also be found on TikTok @TW Rapport. Zipper now, guys, but you can catch us Friday, actually. Yep. Friday with another morning drop. We will see you then, guys. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.